Okay, we're live. Testing, testing. Today on Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn her name was Marilyn.
3, 2, 1. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Pepper. I am coast to coast with Paul Packler. How are you, Paul?
Good. There's so many news topics to start with. There's so many things.
I know. There's just so much going on in the world. How's life in New York? How's the weather in New York?
Not on fire.
We are. I talked to a whole new group of students today who are international students, and I said, welcome to hell. That's right. You're walking into hell. There's the flames of hell. It smells like hell, and homes are burning. So
I thought you were referencing the political climate.
No, we'll get to politics in a moment because that's how.
Well, we've already buried the lead. Corey, you look amazing. That's the lead is. Corey lost more weight. He looks great. Everyone go to our YouTube and watch it. Look at Corey.
Yeah, I know. I have a chin line. I was getting my hair cut last week, and I noticed I don't have a double chin anymore. I have to do this to get a double chin. I have to
do it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You should grow like some stubble. I feel like you could.
I have periodically, and Susanna does enjoy it.
I'm pro stubble.
Yes, she's pro stubble.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you said Marilyn, her name was Marilyn. Is that a reference to last week's episode?
Yeah, I know how much you always go back and listen to what Scott and I talk about when you're not here, but the whole time we weren't sure what her name was, and I kept saying Melinda.
All right, well that explains that, and it's quite funny then.
Yeah.
Was she omnipresent in part 1 as she is in part 2?
A little bit less. The first episode was more about the family dealing with her and Rob being at odds and stuff like that. This was a lot more just she and Rob.
And was a little untalented Jonathan in more the first episode than he was in the second episode?
No, he was just as much of an afterthought in part 1 as.
It was like why was the only thing I had to say was why even mention him and have him drop by for an instant?
I mean, that kid is like in the reality of Family Ties. Jonathan Keaton is going to be doing so many drugs. Like he would have probably been about my age, probably a little bit older. So he would have been raving all over the place. Like the last we heard of Jonathan Keaton, wasn't that kid in a K-hole up in Toronto? Like. We left him on the other side of the border at a rave, and we never saw him again. And that was back in '99. So,
oh man, at least we really do get to learn perhaps a little too much about Marilyn Keaton.
Well, the way it ends in the part 1, catching you up, catching the listeners up, is that she goes out on a date with a Marine that they had met. She and Mallory had met at the mall.
Did we meet the Marine?
You never see the Marine.
Like as always on the show.
Yeah.
They always rip me off of what I want.
Oh, it's true. Every character that is the most interesting character in an episode is the one you never see.
it's right now it's becoming predictable. It's like I know I'm not going to see him, and of course I want to meet the Marine.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's a cliffhanger where she says, "I'm not coming back home tonight. I'm staying at the Marine's house." And then it's like dun dun dun, end of scene 1 or end of part 1. So that's where we leave things off.
And when we talk about ages, would Mallory be maybe a year older or the exact same age as Marilyn?
In part 1, Mallory was acting a lot younger. She seemed like how she used to be in high school, even though she's supposed to be a sophomore in college, right?
That's what I thought, and that's why I thought. And they said that Marilyn was 18 because Rob has a line about Marilyn. She's 18, and so if she's 18 and Mallory is say 19 or 20, the dynamic should be older cousin, younger cousin, and it just wasn't that. It sort of fluctuated at times.
It does. It fluctuates in this episode and a lot more in the last episode.
where sometimes one seems older than the other, and that was something that was so terribly inconsistent in this episode. The one thing that is incredibly consistent in this episode is its own gravitas.
If this is I don't know what the French pronunciation of black hole would be, but there is some gravity taking us down into the depths of boring.
It is so heavy, this episode, that it almost transcends multi-camera comedy and becomes a multi-camera drama. And it's not good drama. It's really superficial and bad, and it's just uninteresting.
It's like, honestly, the whole time I felt very uncomfortable during this episode, like I had gone to someone's house where everyone in the family hates each other, and you have to be there for the weekend. Like, you have a friend that you're going to their place on like Thanksgiving break from college, and it's like, oh, mom and dad hate each other. They want to get a divorce, and my younger brother hasn't come out yet, and all this stuff's happening. Everyone hates each other. Do you want to come home for Thanksgiving? Well, I don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
And then you have to sit there.
Great time.
Yeah, and it's just a cloud of malaise and antipathy throughout the episode. The whole episode just feels like a slog.
And in this case, the interlopers are the one that bring the problem with them. Because if they didn't show up, if Rob and Marilyn and Jonathan didn't show up, everything would be hunky-dory over at the Keatons.
That's the thing. In part one, we don't even find out why they came over.
We don't even know why they show up. It's like this wasn't a planned. They didn't plan this trip.
I mean, they planned it, but they don't explain why or how often this happens. It's they flew in from Buffalo to come visit.
Well, it's and God bless Norman Parker for getting another 2 episodes out of his original 1 episode, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think as a not recurring character, but like a guest star, he's been in so many episodes.
It's sort of ridiculous, and they've saddled him. The last time they saddled him with getting a divorce. This time, and this has been, how was it, last season or 2 seasons ago that he appeared the first time?
1 or 2.
1 or 2, but it's been a significant period of time, and really, his teenage children haven't dealt with the divorce just a little bit by now. It's like no one has confronted something that clearly is something they'd be confronting on a daily basis.
Well, that's, it's tough to say because there's this thing that happens where you don't really find out why they got divorced. And I thought they mentioned it in part 1. Then throughout part 2, they don't really mention it again until the last scene where he's like, oh, I cheated.
Right, he had an affair.
And so it's just a mess. It just doesn't explain whose fault it is, why everyone's upset, and then it takes the wrong tack when we find out what the problem is.
And the thing of it is if you were a teenager and found out that your parents split up because one cheated on the other, I could see a reflexive reaction of being upset with the parent who cheated on the other parent. Right. Without knowing the sides of the story. I could understand that. But oddly enough, the writers chose to keep that piece of information from Marilyn until the denouement of this episode.
Yeah, and it's not saying that she doesn't know that. It's just that she never brings that up as a slam.
Right, and clearly she has anger issues with her father.
I mean, Corey, let's bring up the fact that, Death of a Salesman built an entire play, one of the best American plays of all time, based
about anger with your father.
An anger with one's father because you caught them cheating when you were a teenager.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's something that one doesn't usually get over that very quickly if one sees one's parents as some sort of a mythological couple of love, and you run into that. That could be very confusing for a teenager at that stage of their life.
Right.
So to keep that, so for that to be mentioned at the key moment here, well, it sort of made Marilyn out to be a very unpleasant character.
Yes. Whereas I think she had a lot more, as a character, she has a lot more ground to stand on in the morality of what's going on with this big brouhaha in the family.
If we knew what we know later, if we knew it earlier, they would have made the character a lot more interesting. I don't know why they kept that piece of information. That's so strange.
Yeah.
If we get into this chronologically, we open in the kitchen. Everybody wants to avoid, or Jennifer and Mallory want to avoid Alex for some reason. Why is everybody avoiding Alex at the beginning of the episode?
Why
happened?
shouldn't everyone avoid Alex at this point in the series?
That's a really good question, and I have two very specific instances in this episode of, once again, the Alex P. Keaton sociopathic moments of the week. There are a couple in this episode that are just really quite amazing. We get right into this episode finding out that everyone's sort of gossiping that Marilyn spent the night with the Marine.
Yes. And this is so dumb because we know that people know this because it was the end of episode 1, because the dad gets the phone call where she says, "I'm staying over." But now we have to pretend like it's a secret, and it just wastes plot time.
And they also want to keep this information from Alex as well for some reason. I didn't understand that either.
Yeah.
Thank God Jennifer brings out a gigantic pitcher of orange juice right at the top of the show, which always placates me just a little bit but they didn't buy me that. But they didn't buy that much time with me.
No, they really don't. And honestly, this has been such a long time coming. They haven't had orange juice in so long. This show's off the rails. It
is. It has. I'd say it jumped the shark, but I don't like to use the expression "jump the shark." I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
So. Who was it? Somebody wants to call the police. Is it Uncle Rob?
No, I think it's Alex.
Alex wants to call the police when he finds out that that Marilyn spent the night with the Marine and they haven't heard from her. Uncle Rob enters to announce that they said, "Did you sleep well?" And he said, "Yeah, I slept really well between like 3 o'clock and 3:15." I thought it was pretty funny when he said that, very offhanded. I thought it was yeah, okay. Oh, so you didn't sleep at all. That's what it came down to. That's right. And they all talk. They're all talking to, they want to talk to Rob, and Marilyn want to talk to each other. Is that what's going on here?
Exactly. Yeah.
But not in front of Alex. We can't talk in front of Alex. And we get it right off the bat. We get Marilyn blames Rob for the divorce.
And that's fine, as well she should. But at the beginning of this episode, if you're watching it in real time, you don't realize why she blames him. She doesn't bring it up in that scene.
That's what's bizarre, is she throws it up later in the show. Anyway, apparently they're barely speaking to each other, is what we're told. And in all of this, this was the first sociopathic moment for Alex P. Keaton, where Alex announces, everyone says, "I feel bad for Marilyn. I feel bad for Rob." And Alex announces, "I feel bad for myself."
Yes, because no one told him what was going on.
And to me, that is classic Alex. Fuck, your uncle and niece or your uncle and cousin are hardly talking to each other. There's a horrible divorce. Somebody cheated on a spouse, and Alex is most concerned with Alex's feelings.
What is wrong with him? What? I don't even know. At this point, what's even the point of asking?
Yeah, Marilyn arrives home. And then there's some joke about the Marines at the very end of the scene as they fade out.
What was it? Just that it was just the Andy part where he's like, "She's fine because she was with the Marines."
The Marines, right? Exactly. She was with the Marine.
Now, there's a certain undertone happening throughout the scene where they keep bringing up the Marine. Everyone seems like it's bad enough that she went out with a boy and stayed at the boy's house and all this stuff, but it was a Marine.
Now,
like, there are implications there. I don't get it. What's that supposed to mean?
See, what I get, I'm thinking back to the 70s and what the implication could have been. And I think the implication is that Marines are horny.
Oh, okay.
Service, because you're spending all your time with men in the barracks, in training, and then you unleash them on leave, and they're horny. They only want one thing.
what if we never see each other again? Like that famous trope of being like, this could be my last night on Earth.
Yeah, I could be going shipping out, deployed tomorrow morning.
Okay, so it's like a kind of like a post-Vietnam understanding of that sort
I
of.
think so. I think that's why instead of it just being a boy, that it's a
That's
Marine.
so weird. It's just one of those sort of like cultural stereotypes that just doesn't exist anymore. That you'd be like, oh, I don't get that. Yeah.
Besides the fact that I don't think necessarily. I really don't think of the military as being all male anymore. I think of it being, even though I'm sure it's predominantly male. When I picture it being coeducational.
Right. Right.
When I see it on television, it's almost always co-ed. But I
Not
have
for
to see a
long,
woman.
Corey. God damn it.
Nah, thank you, President Trump. I appreciate that. If it
God
bleeds,
help us.
if they bleed once a month, they should probably not be on the battlefield. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, is Jeff Sessions now the Department of the Military or whatever the hell they call it?
I have to raise my voice for Jeff Sessions. He's got sort of that impish little thing going. So with the second scene of the first act, the camera pans in. It starts with Marilyn sitting in a window seat.
Holy shit.
I know. I just need to describe this. And the camera starts really close and gauzy around her and curtains in a window seat. And it backs up to pensive Marilyn sitting in a window seat in the bedroom. And it's clear she's talking to Mallory and she is jealous that Mallory's got the life.
Honestly, if you go to your neighborhood Sam French or drama bookshop that everyone has around the country, go there and
All of them, yeah.
pick up a copy of like 5 Characters in Search of an Author or other TV plays where it's like they made a play into a TV drama for PBS back in the 70s.
And
this is what they're the shot that they're trying to create with the pullout.
It is so ridiculous, and directed, of course, by my friend Sam Weisman. This episode, God bless
Your
him.
BFF, because I saw that at the top. I was like, Sam Weisman, what kind of directorial panache is he going to bring to this? And we see this.
God, it was awful. So she's jealous, and Marilyn expresses her pent up jealousy with Mallory having it all. She's got loving parents who love each other, who live together in the same house, with her wonderful baby brother and younger sister who she's close with, and with Alex. Yeah, I guess it can't be perfect. She's got Alex. We get a little Alex.
She's not far wrong. This family on paper is the best family ever.
Of course, on paper it was, and she was glad that she got her father worried last night. So she's got anger issues. She was trying to anger. She's trying to get Rob's attention. Clearly,
right, and good. She's allowed.
And I also feel that she's allowed to. I don't think I have any problem with that. And apparently Alex, it says Alex not interested. What does that mean? Alex not interested.
They're having a private conversation in their bedroom, or in Mallory's bedroom, and Alex keeps trying to like knock on the door and come in, right?
Oh yes, that's what it is.
Yes, which is an ongoing joke throughout the episode because reasons? I don't know.
That was the problem. It had no basis, and it was sort of a runner the whole episode of everybody not wanting to speak in front of Alex.
Yeah. I mean, people are learning. This family is finally
They're learning. You know what? If we talk in front of Alex, he's just going to twist it around and make it about him.
Yeah. And you know what, Corey? Let me just give you a little backstory of what happened in last episode. When they first get to the house, they come storming in, and Marilyn runs and grabs Mallory and says, "I need to talk to you." And they go upstairs and hide in the bathroom and turn the water on, and they're there talking for like an hour. And it's so funny that they made a point of having that be, and then it's like an ongoing joke throughout part 1. But now they're in the bedroom being able to share secrets with no problem. And Scott and I were like, why are they hiding in the bathroom? So it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. And they abandoned it as soon as they could.
Now, Elise steps in at this point and starts to lecture Marilyn also about life.
Oh, she's so upset that Marilyn stayed at the guy's house all night.
Yeah, with the Marine. And
Now, let me
then,
just say this: she's
yeah.
18 years old. I know the Keatons have a problem with people who aren't minors moving out of the house and leading adult lives. Like now, they have two children who are in college that aren't at school.
Mhm.
But as an 18-year-old, Marilyn can do whatever the fuck she wants legally, right?
That's my guess. At 18, she seems like she can do whatever the fuck she wants. And, you know, it's not as if mom and dad Keaton aren't aware that Nick and Mallory, I'm fairly sure, have exchanged sexual relations.
Sure. They know
And
Alex has.
Lauren and Alex certainly have, and before that, Alex and Tracy Pollan, what's her name, Ellen.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole thing just seems to be like, well, Marilyn's not allowed to have a boyfriend or go out and have sex. I don't know. It seems very two-faced. It is still the 70s, you know.
Yeah.
Pretty free
Well, I mean,
love.
it's 87 at this point, but yeah. No, but here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
If you had a kid who was 18 years old who goes out on a date and then says, "Hey, I'm staying the night at this," or stays the night with this person on a first date, what would be as a parent, Corey, the best case scenario would be they would call you to let you know where they are, right?
Right. Thank you for calling and letting me know. Use protection if you're going to have sex.
Right. So like Marilyn on paper ddid all the right things.
Like, yeah, she called and she let him know she's not coming home, so he wouldn't be worried the whole night.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's funny that it's like everyone acts like she did the worst thing ever, and when really she did something that people don't agree with, or they have a right to not be happy about. But she
Right.
did the best case.
And when Rob confronts her, he really, now this is coming from a person who didn't see the first episode, but he really, as a parent, he comes at it with anger. He doesn't come at it with anything but anger. The word I wrote down, he's seething. He is absolutely hot as a firecracker in this
I
scene.
was honestly scared that he was going to hit her.
That's what I wrote down. I wrote, and then when he shouts, he has a line where he says, "No, you listen to me." So he's not even willing to communicate with a girl who's clearly upset with him. And he knows, and he's got to know she's upset with him because he cheated on mom.
Right, right. And nevertheless, he's trying to pull some high card on her. He's trying to pull some sort of righteous indignation, which he does not have.
Right. And so what the writers then do is they let her lecture him, which is really the right thing to do. They let her get out. And once again, but she lectures him without bringing up the affair. Again, this is her second chance she has to throw it in his face, and she doesn't choose to do it until later, which would have made it a lot more legit to do it now.
And it's malfeasance on the part of the writers. I don't know why they chose not to bring it up.
Mm-hmm. And they even, who calls her out of anger? She's called a tramp.
Whoa! What, we have Alec Baldwin over here? What's going on?
Calling her a little tramp.
Wow, Jesus Christ, Dad.
Mm-hmm. And it was just something about her father's dough, her father's money. Is that what was he lecturing about money also?
Oh, I missed that part.
I don't know. I can't even read my own handwriting. I was so angry.
But she says, she says something about, where he's like staying all night, sleeping around or being a tramp or whatever. And she goes, well, I'm my father's daughter in that regard or something, right?
My father's daughter. I stopped writing the word daughter. I'm my father's daughter in that regard. Something that was really sort of nasty.
Yeah, good for her. I love that. And on that was the commercial break.
I was just going to say, and that is the commercial break to a multi-camera sitcom with a laugh track.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Man, that's the thing. This episode is so light on laughs. Even the B plots don't have any, they don't even have jokes in them.
At some point, I just wrote down, another name for a multi-camera drama is a soap opera.
And you know what? That I am my father's daughter line is a very soap opera type ending for an act out.
Exactly. That fade out was a soap opera fade out, that going to commercial. It just, the whole tone of this episode is just so wrong.
Now, we've had weird episodes tonally before. We had episodes that are incredibly not funny when they try to be. This one actively, for the first time, seems like a soap opera. It seems like a drama. They've taken all pretense away of trying to be funny.
Yes. We open in the kitchen in the second act, and there's all kinds of sports jokes.
What?
Sports jokes is what I wrote down. Sports jokes? Sprout jokes? Is it Sprouts?
That's what it is.
Ah, Sprouts! Yes, now I remember. They had Sprouts for dinner.
Now, you know what? It reminded me, because I'd listened to a podcast where they reviewed the Thanksgiving episode from season 1 of Family Ties. This other podcast that I listened to, they were doing a holiday episode.
Different holidays.
And remember in season 1 when Elise's parents came over, it was Dick Sargent and the woman that was the mom, and the grandmother was a terrible cook. Now Elise can't cook for shit.
No, she's a terrible cook. She's serving Sprouts. And they thought they hammered this joke over and over again.
Yeah. Sprouts Wellington. What does that even mean? Because I don't cook.
I guess it's a beef Wellington joke. Another one of the dishes that she makes is Sprouts Wellington.
Right. What is the Wellington part of beef Wellington?
Beef Wellington is beef in a pastry.
Oh, that sounds good.
Like in a puff pastry, and it's baked. It's like a tenderloin of beef baked in a puff pastry.
Is there anything creamy in there?
No, a little sauce you can put on it, like a little mushroom creamy sauce.
Okay, we could do without that, but that sounds good.
That's all right. I can make a grilled cheese at the same time, and I'm sure you'd enjoy that just as.
Do you have chicken fingers and macaroni and cheese?
I'll cut the crusts off for you and everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're in the kitchen. What did I write down? Walk. Oh, Rob's going to go for a walk.
Yes. That happens a lot in this episode. There's lots of walking for some reason.
And instead of going for a walk, we end up with a incredibly long-ass scene between Rob and Stephen, which I wrote down, the crux of which is their beer memories.
I have a beer that I've been drinking in honor of the Keaton beer memories.
The beer memory scene where Rob was 3 and Stephen was 6, or vice versa.
Drinking beer under the house.
Basement, yeah.
Here, for everyone listening, please write to us with your hashtag Keaton beer memories.
Keaton beer memories. And it turns out the beer memory then morphs into a scene where these two 40-year-old brothers Rob pours his heart out to Stephen in a really boring scene where the basic crux of it is that Rob is embarrassed. He's embarrassed that he got a divorce. He's embarrassed that he was caught cheating on his wife. He's embarrassed that his children think less of him. He's embarrassed that Marilyn spent the night out with a Marine. He's embarrassed. And what it also comes down to, and this is where it got weird for me, in 1987, he was wearing shame as part of divorce in 87.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, because in the 80s is when the divorce rate really started to take off. That was the first.
You're telling me?
Yeah, right? No, but like that was, so I mean, the Family Ties has tackled divorce before as a subject matter, but they're still doing it in the same way and with the same sort of like whisper when you say it because it's so evil.
And that's what was so weird about it, was him sort of standing there awash with shame of being divorced. Now, you know, I was the first person to get divorced in my family.
Oh, really?
And yeah, no one in my family, none of my aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, everybody was all married. Well, the Jews, you know, they love to stay married forever and be miserable with each other.
It's kind of their hobby.
Right. I just couldn't handle that. So when I got divorced, I did have, and that was, when did I get divorced? What year was it? What year? 93 or so. So not that far thereafter this. Okay. 93. And I remember calling my parents, and I was ashamed that I was getting divorced. And my parents, in one of their only moments of actual nicety in my whole life, they said, "Oh, please, you weren't very happy," which was Stephen's reaction to Rob. Yes. And I think that's the right reaction. If you know somebody wasn't happy in a marriage, then I think you need to absolve them and say, my friends, you do not have to be unhappy for the rest of your life just because you got married.
Right, right. And we don't know when he got married. It might have been young or whatever. We don't know. We never learn any of the interesting details.
No, the only thing we learned is that he was unhappy in his marriage. He cheated on his wife, and his daughter is angry at him because of that.
That's where we're at so far in the episode, because we learned something in the last scene that's really weird that I can't believe we didn't know before. But let me just say, Corey, with this scene, because when you described Rob's feelings of shame about not being the happy family that he thought they were going to be, or that they presented themselves as. So, like, the thing that we know about Rob is that he's a conservative, much like Steven's dad and just like Alex, and I think that Rob gets off on the fact of doing things the traditional way. Like, we've learned that about him before.
Okay, I buy it a little bit more now as a character, that he's a more conservative character, and that this could bring him social stigma in the social circle that he's in, or in his job, whatever it is. It just seems a little weird.
But here's the thing. I'm giving them way more credit than they deserve, because the problem is that he cheated on his wife and his kid is pissed about it. The shame about the divorce is a moot issue that we've agreed is like a dumb thing to be upset about.
Right.
The cheating is the thing. And again, this show has not brought that up as being the real reason that he's upset.
We're about to get to that. But what is Steven? Does Steven give? Steven gives Rob the advice to let her go, to let Marilyn go.
That the bottom of my jaw hit the floor at that point.
I wrote it down because I'm sort of still stunned. It was like, wow, here's somebody who heretofore this point I regarded as a fairly smart and caring father. It was the worst fatherly advice that I'd heard. Your child is in pain, clearly. She's acting out because she's in pain. And you're advising your brother to let your niece go instead of going and finding out what can you do to make it right?
In so many words, Stephen Keaton says to his brother, fuck her, write her off.
Write her off. She's dead to me.
Yeah, that's what he says. And it's he knows that it's Rob's fault. And
yes.
even so, his advice is, you know what? Sometimes you gotta burn them. You just gotta take a mulligan, Rob.
You know, sometimes you just gotta vote for a pedophile because he's a member of your party.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insane. Honestly, I recommend people watch this scene just to see what a piece of shit Steven is.
Keaton is. It was hands down the worst parental advice scene I've ever seen on television. It was like, really?
I mean, I'm sure this is a very prickly subject, and that a professional opinion would be something to look into if you're in this situation.
Yes.
But the one thing that I would say is, hey, maybe give your daughter some space and let her come to you when she's ready to talk about this, and be available and be open and apologize in the ways that you fucked up if you can right now, but wait, maybe. But like, to just be like, you know what? Fuck her. Maybe she'll come back, maybe she won't.
And instead of Rob giving her time, we get the absolute opposite of that. Him not barging, but he goes to her bedroom immediately following and basically says, you know, all right, I'm throwing down. Let's be honest with each other here. And he, at this moment, apologizes to his daughter for cheating on her mother.
Now, if you didn't watch last week's episode, if it's 1987, you turn on the boob tube during sweeps week, this is the first time in the episode you find out that he cheated on his wife.
And that's the reason for the divorce.
Yes.
He had an affair.
Or, no, this is where it gets crazy, Corey, because I did not expect this twist. He says to his daughter, he says that your mom and I had already decided that we weren't going to be staying together.
Right.
We were still living together at that time, and I had an affair at that point. And I thought it was right at the time, but it wasn't. Now, that's a hell of a thing. Because I don't know, do you think that the mom was upset? Like, if they've already decided, you know what, we're fine. You're in the other room, I'm in this room, and it's just we have to go through the
We're
paperwork.
living, because financially we're still under one roof right now, but we're living a separated life right now. I don't understand why it's being considered an affair if that was a mutual decision between a husband and wife, that we're living as separated people under one roof for either financial reasons or co-parenting reasons or whatever reasons it still is. That would be perfectly acceptable, and I certainly wouldn't call that an affair.
No, neither would I. And I maybe in that situation, but we don't know how the mom feels about his characterization. And at the same time, Marilyn is completely within her rights to be upset still because she doesn't understand that sort of negotiation of a relationship.
That is correct. And frankly, it's none of her fucking business. And
It becomes not his fault anymore. And that's a hell of a thing to bring up.
Yes.
So yeah, like I said, it would have been nice if this information were given to us earlier in the episode instead of in the last scene.
It was written the way they parsed out exposition was very strange, especially for a 2-part episode. To parse this piece of information, and that was a conscious decision on their part, that they weren't going to give us this piece of information, that she knew that his affair broke up their marriage, and that's what she's upset with him about. Why now? Why didn't we learn that at the beginning of the episode, and then we could have healed it a little easier?
Yes, and that the affair didn't break up the marriage. The marriage was already done.
Broken up, right?
Oh, it's so weird, and they've given us no time to look into this any further. Like, this is it. They're just done now.
And then they have the brass gonads to end the scene with him cradling her in his arms, saying, "Just let me be your father."
He says it 3 times in a row, and it gets more discomforting every time he says it.
Every moment I started to think like I was watching incest porn.
Jeez, well, I didn't think of that. But I mean, yeah, it's just like, he's like gaslighting her. He's like giving her the...
I'm going to talk you into it, yes.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to talk you into not being mad at me anymore.
I just want to be daddy. Just think of me as your daddy.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Really strange. It's a very uncomfortable end to a scene.
And she, in this scene, she was crying a bunch. What's her name? Tammy Lauren?
Yes, Tammy Lauren.
She's a good actor. I thought she was very good in the 2 parts that she was in.
I was just going to say, now that he just said it's Tammy Lauren. Didn't you go to class? Weren't you in class?
In class with her. I thought she was lovely.
Any relation to Greg Lauren?
None.
No relation to Greg Lauren, but Tammy Lauren was in class with you.
Correct.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I knew I had the name before, and I was wondering, did I know her from something? No, Susanna knew her. I knew the name from her.
Yeah, she was in a bunch of stuff, like, throughout the years. Many TV shows and things.
Mm-hmm. And to me, the episode could have ended right here, although we didn't get back to the Keaton family again, to the nuclear Keaton family that we know. And that's what they had to tack on another scene, which wasted my whole fucking another 6 or 7 minutes of my life because nothing's happening. There's no story here.
My favorite is that this is, I'm guessing, what, your part 2 of Alex is a Sociopath?
Yes.
That he decides for Andy who his wife is going to be?
No, how could you have guessed that, Paul? The line is, "Who you marry is important to me." Yes, Alex told Andy, and then he explained it afterwards. "Hey, Andy, it'll affect my life who you decide to marry."
I mean, my God. So Andy is like 4 years old right now.
I'm going to pick out who you're going to marry when you're 19 or 20 or 25 years old.
Yeah, like 20 years from now, Alex is going to be like 48 years old. And he's going to stop by Ohio and be like, Andy's working in like Best Buy because at this point, Alex and his fucking investment banking has destroyed the government, or I'm sorry, destroyed the economy. And he comes to Best Buy and Andy's there, he's tatted up and he's all depressed. He's like, "Andy, here's this woman that I've found for you in New York." And she's like, some Russian mobster's mole or something. And yeah, that'll be it.
Alex P. Keaton arranged marriage. It's nothing like it. Yep, that was the moment. That was the best moment in the scene. Now, the second best moment in the scene is when they all stood around announcing where they were going to go and get pizza, arguing over what Italian name. By the way, it couldn't have been more racist. It's just ethnically racist. Oh, what's better, Alfredo or Guido? Or Guido or Alfredo? Or Alfredo or Luigi? Or Luigi or Mario? Or Mario? It was like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was something else. And at the same time, they've named 4 different ones, and I'm like, what the fuck, guys? How about Guido's? And then at least
I know. That's what I wrote down too, Paul. It was like, are you ever going to get to Guido's? And I thought, oh, you bastard lazy writers, you don't even know your own mythology. And then sure enough, yeah, there we go. Guido's makes the best. You bet they do. And that's the only set we have.
And the reason they're saying that is because now daddy and daughter are going to go out on a date, which maybe you were right about the whole incest thing.
Yep. It's going to be a daddy and daughter date for pizza.
Yeah, it's just so, like, who cares? They've already had their talk. Now they're going to go out for dinner to talk more? I don't know.
Yeah, it was just weird. I don't know. It just seemed like, wow, he needs a date.
Ugh. And again, we've totally forsaken Jonathan. Is that the kid brother's name?
And you know what? I think mentioning him, yes, that is the kid's brother name. And for us to mention him for the second time now, this late in the podcast, I think we've done him more. We've paid more attention to him than the writers of Family Ties did.
I mean, my God, why even have a second kid then?
I don't know why. He added absolutely nothing to this episode. If he added something to the last episode, more power to him.
He didn't. It was even less in the first episode.
Wow.
Yeah, poor kid. At least he got some time for his SAG.
I know his SAG insurance. That's
Yeah.
all I can. Thank God.
Anyway, anything else of this? I mean, this is maybe the worst episode this season so far.
Oh wow, it was bad. It was really bad, and I just want to thank you and Scott for taking care of. Oh, we didn't mention Scott until right now, did we?
Oh yeah, Scott's not going to be able to make it to this episode. Everybody, I don't know if you noticed, but he hasn't been here.
You know what? I think that is kind of us to only mention it when you're about to read the credits.
It's good. He's the Jonathan of this episode.
Yeah. Scott is the Jonathan Keaton of this episode. Couldn't have said. Did I tell you I ran into Kerry and Maisie at Whole Foods last week?
Really? How are they doing?
Kerry looked beautiful, and I'd never met Maisie before. I know that you met Maisie at was it Christmas or Thanksgiving? Or
Thanksgiving last year. Oh my God, it's been a year already.
I know, it's hard to believe, and she's adorable. She's just adorable. So they both look good.
Good. What were you picking up? What were you shopping for?
I buy. They have these peanut butter and jelly bites that sound like it's trashy, but what it is it's ground up peanuts around this little bite of jelly. So it's like protein and sweet at the same time, and it's not overly sugary. So it's perfect for my new diet.
I regret bringing it up. No, that sounds really good. That sounds good.
Yeah. Don't ask me about chickpea pasta or lentil spaghetti because I haven't had real pasta, and now I eat only like brown rice pasta.
Have you had cauliflower rice?
Oh, sure. I've had cauliflower rice, cauliflower mashed potatoes. Love it.
It's really good.
Cauliflower fried rice.
I did. I made a cauliflower fried
Chinese
rice. I made a
sausage.
Chinese sausage fried rice with cauliflower.
Oh my God! If California weren't on fire, I would be out there tonight.
I'd be cutting the crust off your bread in no time.
Thank you. All right, let's go. You ready to go in?
I'm ready.
Okay, gang, rate and review our show on iTunes, please. Come on, what are you doing? It's the holidays. I think it's
Hey, and Damon. I bet Damon's rated and reviewed us on iTunes.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, Damon, please rate and review our show. We're doing a specific every week.
Now it's come to this. It has come to this moment. This is the lowest moment ever. We're directing the podcast at our one listener.
Wait, I actually have something else from another listener. So from our
Okay, I'm impressed.
From fan of the show Dana, she sent me this. It's the craziest thing about Skippy's girlfriend. Remember Skippy's girlfriend?
Of course, 2 episodes.
Yes. So the most unrealistic detail of Family Ties is when Skippy's girlfriend kept an Erlenmeyer flask of formaldehyde in her dorm room. Nobody enjoys the smell of formaldehyde and would want it where they sleep. Also, what would she possibly need formaldehyde in her room for? So that's something to think about. Maybe she's a serial killer?
That's really weird. It's like, it doesn't smell like Skippy. It smells like formaldehyde. Why would she want it in her room?
Right. She's pickling dead things.
Oh, crazy.
Anyway, thank you, Dana.
Yeah.
Anyway, rate and review our show on iTunes. And for questions and comments, email us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at QTWFT for updates, and you can follow each of us. I'm at Paul Packler.
I'm at Corpep, and Scott's only on MySpace.
And you can like us on Facebook. We'd like to thank our host and producer, Barbara Dillon at Fanbase Press. Fanbase Press is a comic book publisher and online community supporting other creators and fans through daily reviews, interviews, and podcasts that span the pop culture spectrum. Fanbasepress.com. We'd like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs Family Ties and our theme song Without Us. Check out her website at perryadams.com. We'd like to thank Bryant Dillon, who created our fantastic drawing and artwork as well as edits our show. And Bryant just had some medical health issues. He's fine now, but he's editing our show. If you're listening to this right now, it's because he edited the show while he's like overcoming grave illness. Not grave, but
I know, but illness, serious enough illness that he was hospitalized. So well.
Thanks for editing the show, Bryant, and we hope that you feel better soon.
Yes.
Follow him on Twitter at Comic Book Slayer. And finally, we'd like to thank Sean Foster, Fanbase Press's graphic designer, for designing our logo. Gang, we'll see you next week. Bye.